There it is.
All right. Hi, guys. This is Coach Chase and Coach Danielle with RN Body Transformation Secrets. And today we are bringing you a podcast on stress, how to crack the code for stress, and how to conquer it. Let's go.
Love it. Yeah, and like I said, we're getting into stress today, and that's one of the things that one of our key pillars that we focus on in coaching at RN Body Transformation, because most of us go through it, and especially a lot of our clients are running on a high level of stress and have been doing this for a very long period of time. So we figured it'd be good to kind of jump into why it's important to start to focus on stress and what it's doing to us physiologically and mentally as well, mentally and physically as well, because I mean physically it is affecting us as well. So yeah, we're going to get into it. And first things first, we're just going to kind of identify what stress is. I mean, stress is defined as the state of worry or mental tension caused by a difficult situation. So we go through this on a pretty consistent basis. Most things there is some sort of stressor involved. Stress is a natural human response that prompts us to address challenges and threats in our lives. Everyone experiences stress to some degree. So, it can be environmental, it can be intrinsic, and it can be involved with just aging and just like that process of thinking like, oh, we're running out of time type of, situation. There is also a cycle of stress called the general adaptation syndrome. And this is, in my study has been worked with a lot of just, you know, exercise related, but it is also, um, just regular stress related, like external, intrinsic, and however we're identifying stress. So, getting into that kind of, I know we've chatted about stress a little bit. That's kind of started with it, and that's kind of a big thing we deal with clients. How about you, Danielle? Have you noticed that with a lot of the people that you've worked with, that stress has been at a pretty high level for them?
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, that's one of our pillars. But usually on kickoff calls, most of our clients are nurses. We always ask them to rate their stress 0 to 10. And, they're usually rating it pretty high. And we kind of get into it, you know, over the last 4 years since COVID hit, it's just been extremely challenging for healthcare providers, particularly. So a lot of our clients worked through COVID, myself alongside them as a healthcare provider. And, it caused burnout for sure. Um, we'll talk about this, but when you go through general adaptation syndrome, it's like you adapt and then you either recover or you don't, and you just become exhausted and burned out. And that's where a lot of our clients are, because it was just nonstop, for almost 2 years there between the COVID and then like the COVID vaccine. And it was just a lot of changes for our healthcare providers, a lot of stress, being exposed daily to this virus that we didn't know a lot about at the time, being scared about bringing that home to our families, our young kids, our elderly parents who may be sick. So it was a lot. And a lot of our clients are still, having trouble like ramping down from that and kind of being able to breathe. So that's something that we work on with all of our clients, like trying to bring their stress back down to a normal level.
Yeah, and then like you said, going into the general adaptation syndrome, like you got your alarm, you got the alarm stage, which is just pretty much the fight or flight response. Like, so when we are when something happens stress related, this is our natural response. From way back, even when we're dealing with, oh
Caveman.
yeah, caveman. This is like, hey, this is when this caught, like when this starts, it is our body pretty much reacting to a stressful situation. So an adverse situation. So the body is either prepared to like face a perceived threat or to escape from it. So the stage usually invokes kind of various reactions in the body, such as releasing stress hormones, cortisol, and adrenaline from like the adrenal gland. So this is when we talk about, over the years of COVID and all this stuff, like if you're faced with stress and overarching stress, and there's no adaptation to it whatsoever, and we're just continually going through this stage of stress, and we don't have a way to manage it, that's when we start hearing people with adrenal fatigue and starting to deal with these things where it's really affecting, it's not only just affecting. I mean, it's affecting us physiologically also, and we talked about that. But the adrenal glands and like getting them to a point where we got people that are always just chronically tired, and it's one from obviously lack of sleep can help how we perceive stress, but stress just getting to a point where we can no longer manage it, and it's not being recovered from. We're just kind of in this constant cycle of fight or flight. So like I said, increase the heart rate, rise in blood sugar levels, and increase in blood pressure. So imagine if this was something you were doing over and over and over and over again, and we weren't finding a way to address it. And we'll get into it here in a little bit as well. But this going into adaptation, like if the stressful situation isn't resolved, the body uses all the resources, for example, continuous secretion of stress hormones, to provide energy to deal with the situation, to adapt to the stressful situations as well. This is when we're supposed to be adapting, adaptation stage. This results in various types of physical, sleep problems, general tiredness, muscular pains, ingestion, allergies, minor infections like common colds, lack of concentration. So you're starting to see these things, compound over time, especially if they are if we're not finding a way to address it, or we're going to talk about it in a future slide, applying a different meaning to it or reason to it. Impatience, irritability, behavior problems, all the stuff, smoking, drinking, eating, all those things, we talk about like the, people eating out of stress eating, like this is where this is happening. And if it's not, like I said, going into the exhaustion recovery stage, if we're not recovering, then this just continues to stack, as we, as it's not addressed. So if the body's, coping mechanisms have succeeded in overcoming the stressors effect, follows a recovery stage. But if the body has used up the resources and you're not able to maintain, normal function, it leads to exhaustion phase, which this is where we find a lot of people in right now. The exhaustion stage, like, persists a long time, cause of long-term effects where the individual at risk is suffering from more serious health conditions, depression, hypertension, coronary diseases. So as you see, this can get, a lot of people think of, oh, I'm just stressed out, this is a normal part of life. And it's like, while yes, that is true, there is going to be stress in your life, you have to find a way to manage it and create different coping mechanisms, or different like stress relief mechanisms, which we'll kind of get into here soon, coming up. So I'm sure kind of what I went over, this is something we see a lot with brand new clients coming in. That first call we're going through, and a lot of these symptoms are things that we're talking about on the first calls.
Yeah. We hear a lot, especially with our clients working like 12 or 13-hour shifts, like the days that they don't have to work, like they just say, like, I can't even get off the couch. I know I need to clean, and I know I need to do this and this, but like I literally can't even get off the couch because my body and my brain are just zapped,
Yeah, that's your body trying to go through that recovery mode, but we're not doing it. We're not doing it in a constructive way most of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then, it gets into, we talked about cortisol a little bit. This is what a lot of people, we have a lot, we focus on a lot with clients, and just because this is where a lot of struggle, where like cortisol stacking over time. And this also comes into play with when you think of exercise. Exercise is a stressor as well. So if we're not managing our outside stressors and like what we're dealing with work, home, and all these things, if we're throwing 3 to 5 days a week, 3 to 5 times a week of an hour plus exercise, we're adding on to the stress level, this extra cortisol that we're putting in our body. So it's, there is some harm if we are not doing this in a structured way and addressing the underlying issues of stress.
Exactly.
So, cortisol and adrenaline are natural, stress responses, as we talked about. Cortisol works as an equalizer to adrenaline. So if you think about it, if we have adrenaline all the time, cortisol is going all the time as well. Once perceived stress threat is gone, body returns to homeostasis. A lot of times that perceived threat just continues for people. So if it's not addressed, causes, these are some of the causes: anxiety, depression, digestive problems, headaches, muscle tension and pain, heart disease, high blood pressure, stroke, heart attack, sleep problems, weight gain. I mean, the list goes on. Um, and we've heard about people dying young because of high levels of stress. And this is like the whole work-life balance thing. Even though we work with clients that aren't necessarily, there isn't a whole lot of work-life balance, so we have to kind of like work that in, finding ways to address this without completely changing what they have going on. But
Mhm.
it's the whole idea of finding a balance in your life to where you can focus on yourself and not just work and giving to others. Because if we do that, then we're not able to properly address these issues that down the road could give you a lot of issues. So that's why it's very important to really focus on, um, managing these things. The response to this is pretty cyclical, and when there's no delay or tools to manage the stress, it can cause a lot of long-term issues. So, going on, we've talked about, cortisol with a lot of our clients too. And that's, if I would say probably the majority of, not even just the clients that we work with, but a lot of people people in our lives are dealing with high levels of stress, and finding ways to manage them is not, coping mechanisms happen with this, smoking, drinking, you know,
Mhm.
eating, and all these things are causing more issues that are just kind of stacking over time.
Yeah.
Um,
I always like, if you look at the list of like what does stress affect, like the easy way I always tell my clients to think about it is you're either in fight or flight or you're in rest and digest. So if you're always in fight or flight, then think about everything that contains like rest and digest. Those things are not happening, and what we're physiologically supposed to be doing is going through those stages throughout the day. A little fight and flight, then a little rest and digest, a little bit of fight and flight, a little bit of rest and digest. And like that's where we see these digestive, circulatory issues, musculoskeletal system issues, issues with our skin, hair, and nails, reproductive issues. These are all on the rise. And it's just because we're not going back to rest and digest enough. And especially in our clients, as nurses.
yeah, yeah, and that's obviously you're seeing this, and we talked a little bit about it on the last slide, but it does affect a lot of things that we don't even think of.
Right.
And it's just kind of like, it almost feels like it's one of these things that people are just like, you just expect that stress is going to be, stress is going to be a normal part of your life. It is. But these high levels, and just like not having anymore, like our coping mechanisms are, we have a lot of different things. We have our phone, we can just scroll for hours. um, we can do, there's all kinds of stuff that people are doing right now that aren't actually addressing what is happening. And like you said, that's where
Yeah.
that's where we need that rest and recovery section of it. And that those would be
Yeah.
times where we should be focused on, maybe we're doing a little bit of breath work, maybe we're doing a little bit of journaling. So finding something that we are working into that is effective to managing some of these higher levels of stress, or at least adding a different meaning to them. So going on, like we get into kind of different ways to navigating them, because obviously it's not all doom or gloom. There's different things that you can do to manage these things. We just want to let you know, like, the actual long-term effects of these things if not addressed in a proper way, because this is what we see on a consistent basis. And I'm sure not just our client base, but if you talk to anybody, they're probably dealing with stress, whether it be financial, whether it be you know lifestyle, whether it be family, work. There's all kinds of factors that play a role in it. And if you ask most of them what do they do for stress relief, it's not it's not super constructive. So when we're thinking about flowing, like a flow chart to kind of navigating stress, where this is something that Ryan put together, and it's pretty helpful when we're navigating a journey for a client. The flow chart for stress. So like, I am stressed. The next, obviously, if you follow the next box, it says stop and figure out why you are. And then, is there anything that you can do about it? And then it moves down to, use it to, like, kind of, are you working? One, Like, so is there something you can do about it? No. Are you working? No. Um, and then, take a nap, or, and that gets back to like the whole sleep situation where we, rest and recovery. Like, sleeping is important and can help us change like our perceived level of stress by just focusing on that. Um, but yeah, there's like
Yeah.
utilizing this flow chart and just kind of finding out what the actual issue is and how you are going to, um, if there is anything you can do about it, and if there isn't anything you can do about it, finding a way to add a different, you know, changing like what I guess what the stressor is, not necessarily what the stressor is, but like how we are reacting to it, how we're coping to it. Which kind of goes into this next one where this is a little bit more like systematically dealing with stress. Um, the flow chart is good for just kind of like addressing like what is it that is actually the stressor, and then how you deal with it systematically is just identifying one, the source. So is it something that you can affect from happening in the first place? So, when we think about this, like we think about people that want to have control over every situation.
Hmm.
And there's going to be times where you can't control a specific situation and it adds stress to your life. And if it's something that you can't control, then why is it stressing you out? So,
Yeah.
there is you know, I find this happens a lot with clients where they deal with this, they want things to go a certain way, whether it be at work, whether it be at home. And, we can't influence. I mean, we can influence, but we can't affect how somebody reacts or what decisions are made that are outside of our own control.
Right.
And that often leads to somebody feeling stressed because they can't control that specific situation, which then it's something that even it might directly affect our life, but it's you know kind of giving what I'm trying to say here, like giving it up to the world to like, hey, like something's gonna it this stress is happening. I don't know why I'm losing my place here. I can't figure out what I'm trying to say. But yeah, like, so trying to like keep it to where we're not controlling everything, and
Yeah.
focus on what you can control in your own life, and that is how you react to the specific situation or the way we view it. If it happens, let's change the meaning that we attach to it as well. So that is,
Exactly.
yeah. So that's like, if we can't control it, somebody else made a decision, change the way you view it. Like, okay, well, this is something that I couldn't affect, but I'm going to just kind of go with the flow of whatever this decision is. And yeah, go from there. And then, just changing the way we cope with it. And that's going to be, whether it be like breath work, or instead of getting on your phone and just scrolling or eating, or doing a little bit more self-destructive tendencies, finding ways to cope with it in a effective manner, whether it be going on a walk, getting a little sunlight, getting a little extra vitamin D here and there. But it's finding a way to just make it not affect us in that particular the way it is, because a lot of people, yeah, I'm kind of losing my spot here.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you look like this slide and the last slide, like what Ryan put together for everybody, it says pretty much like, it reminds me of like the serenity prayer, like, give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that's something that, we have to, as humans, we have to kind of remind ourselves of that a lot. That's the only way that we're going to be able to bring down our stress in some of these situations, because we have a lot of like type A personalities for clients, which like I totally resonate with. I'm the same exact way, but that's what it is. It's like you have to accept that some things are out of your control and then let those things go. And then I always tell my clients, control the controllables. That is what I always say. There are some things we cannot control, but what we can do is control the controllables, and that gives them a sense of, power. And they feel like even like little changes, like, hey, I have to work 4 12s in a row this week, but I'm going to meal prep before those 4 12s so I can pack my meals. And then you feel that like, wow, I have the power to choose what I'm going to be eating during these shifts, and that just it just brings down your stress so much to know like, hey, I do have control.
Yeah, and thank you for getting there for me, because
Of
for whatever
course.
reason I couldn't find those words to bridge that gap that I was trying to get at. But yes, that is very true, where it's just, you can control how you react to the situation, but also how you prep yourself for the week. Being prepared,
Mhm.
not preparing is preparing to fail. But if you
Exactly.
prepare, then you have the ability to navigate these situations and have like, okay, I know what I'm going to be doing eating wise, drinking wise, and then going into this next slide, really, we talked about the systematic part of it, but let's talk about like the practical part of it, which, you know, stress reduction tools. And we go through this a lot with clients. And in the first call is always something that we're like, okay, what can we find that fits within your lifestyle? Because, we got to have a way to address what is currently happening in these stress levels that you are currently going through. So, healthy lifestyle choices is number one. And that's like, when we're setting it up, we're going sleep, nutrition, limit alcohol, and this, finding a way to that recovery part of things that we're looking for, is sleep, number one. And nutrition is going to affect a lot of things. We talk about gut health and how important gut health is, and how much it connects with just our brain health too. So making sure that we are eating the right things, getting enough protein, is going to help with just kind of managing that stress by just eating healthier and taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
Less caffeine. We know caffeine's great. Everybody loves caffeine. Had a cup of coffee. Had a couple cups of coffee. That was a tongue twister. Couple cups of coffee today, and I've noticed those days when I have a little extra caffeine, that there is a little bit more on edge, because it
Mhm.
raises your heart rate, and it can affect just your calmness and how you're addressing specific situations. But yeah, the breathing exercise is another one we go through. Deep breathing exercises, techniques like diaphragmatic breathing, deep belly breathing can activate the body's relaxation response and reduce stress. Somebody I like to use for this is Wim Hof. I don't know if you ever heard of Wim
Mhm.
Hof.
Yeah.
He's an interesting fella, but he does a really good job of, he has some breathing exercises for beginners or intermediates, and like really one round of that could, just really takes things down a notch and allows you to kind of relax a little bit, get that heart rate in a more stable spot, bring and get you some good oxygen into the body. Brain dumping, journaling, writing down thoughts, feeling, and concerns can help clarify thoughts, reduce stress, and promote self-awareness. So it's that almost your self-therapy in a way, where you are just kind of writing out what's happening throughout the course of the day, like what stressed you out, what's this, or planning for the next day, and kind of creating this space where you can get your thoughts out onto paper. When we try to go to
Mhm.
sleep, our brain's racing. We have a billion thoughts going on. Sometimes it's good to just get those things out of your brain, because they need to be processed in one way or the other. Do you do any of these things so far?
Yeah, brain dumping has been super helpful for me, because I'm that kind of person that my brain always has 100 tabs open. I'm always thinking about everything. I have a lot going on. I have a lot of responsibilities, and it's always going through my head. And then like the breathing exercises, it's interesting because we'll talk about this when we do our sleep podcast too. But it's like, as a parent now, I use this technique on my 3-year-old. When she's getting upset, my job as her mom is to help her regulate her emotions. So like I practice with her, like breathing, like breathe in deep nose, like through your nose, a deep breath, and then out through pursed lips. And I'll have her like trace my fingers as she does it. And she'll breathe in and out and in and out. And she'll calm down, and you'll just like watch it happen to her. And it's just interesting because it's natural for us to be able to do this for other people. What it's really hard is to be able to do it for yourself. And that's what I see with so many of our clients. It's like you're telling them to do these things for themselves, and they're like, oh, I know, like I have my patients do that, but I've never done it for me. And it's like, yeah, like sometimes that's like the beauty of having a coach, is it's like it's somebody just to say, hey, I know you know this, but like let's have you try it. You try it on yourself, and then they really see how it works.
Yeah, and then you find a lot of people like utilizing this on a daily basis, and then like when you're telling people that, hey, try these things out, and you can give them a little bit of insight on like how it's worked for you, then it's like they're much more likely to actually be doing these things.
Absolutely.
Meditation is another one of those. Mindfulness meditation, practicing mindfulness, helps focus attention in the present moment, reducing stress and promoting relaxation. And meditation's tough for a lot of people because you talked about it with the your brain having a million things going on, and meditation is not going to be easy to start doing. It's
Yeah.
going to be what it's going to take months, years to get the hang of it. But once you start getting to that point and you can shut down this internal dialogue and really focus on being present in the moment, then those things can help, just remind yourself that, hey, we're on this beautiful earth that,
Hmm.
you have life, you have family, you have friends, you have all these things, you have a career that you love. There's all these things going on that we focus on all the negatives. And sometimes meditation gives us that time to focus on, what we are grateful for, what we are, and then journaling can kind of do that as well. But
Yeah.
what we are, you know, you know, what's great about this world, which there's a lot of things. I mean, you're alive, you're living a life. Like, it's exciting. This is fun. This is a fun thing to be doing. And another thing that I've liked to do with meditation is I would do some groundwork, going outside and taking, like, first thing in the morning, sun's out, take the shoes off, take the socks off, put on some peaceful, like, lo-fi music, relaxing music, 5 to 10 minutes of just like standing there and taking some deep breaths and just focusing and being present in that moment. It's not necessarily meditation, but in some form, it is it is being present in the moment. And that's kind
Yeah.
of the idea of meditation. And next thing would be social support, connecting with friends, family, or support groups. Can provide emotional support, reduce feelings of isolation or stress. Uh, as human beings, we are looking for connection. And over the last 4 years, that has been much more difficult with, between COVID and the couple of years that it was just like, what's going on? Like, when are we going to see our family again? Stuff like that. And if we see them, are we going to get them sick? Connecting with friends, connecting with people in person, or even just calling them, having somebody that you can kind of, talk to and have a consistency with that, because that whole loneliness isolation thing, like, there's people that would love to hear from you. So reaching
Yeah.
out to them, talking to them, is going to just help you, process things. And even if they don't want to talk about the stress that's going on in your life, it's just having that outlet. um, Music and relaxation practices. I like the music part of it. I'm not necessarily a calming music guy. I like listening to like metal and stuff like that. So that relaxes me, oddly enough. But I the calming music and stuff like that, I'll use that. As well, when, like, in the morning, obviously it's too early to be turning up and getting crazy. So well, yeah, so that, music's a great outlet for me and a great relaxation piece for me as well. So that's, another stress reduction tool that is very beneficial that we can start to throw in there.
Yeah.
So, any kind of music you like to listen to, you got a playlist to share with the group?
Honestly, when you were talking about the grounding in the morning, I do something similar, but I don't have music. I think it's just because like I'm like overstimulated all the time. So it's like for me, like to have the music would be too much. But I do something similar in the morning. I do go out barefoot and I like to stand in the grass. And then I have trees in my backyard. So I just kind of look at the trees, listen to the birds, and just like being present on like, oh, look at those two cardinals and look at those leaves blowing. Like that helps me just be present. And it's something that brings me joy. And I think that's a big part of stress relief is finding what actually calms you down and brings you joy. And like one of those things for me is like the sunshine and like trees, birds, just like being in the moment outside. So I do something very similar, but no, I like music when I'm working out for sure. But when
Yeah.
I'm trying to relax, like I just want silence.
Uh-huh. I get that. I have a little bit more of the hyperactive brain where I'm like extra things calm me down, which is really weird. But the bad thing is, it kind of, like, as you see today, I have a thought and I can't get that thought out, and I'm thinking of other thoughts, and I get twist it up. So yeah, it's good to have this, you and I working together on this because,
Yeah.
you're a little bit more, you can get what I'm saying and be a little bit more direct with it. So, and how to find what's right for you. So we've talked about a lot of things today, and like especially with there's 5 or 6 different things that we can start implementing into your lifestyle. Some things that you can start to do, and how to figure out what is effective for you and how it's going to work. Try one thing at a time. Don't do a bunch of stuff right away. If you're starting from 0, don't go 0 to 100. Like, just start at 0, add one thing to it, and try it for a few weeks. Build up consistency and get better at the activity. Like, meditation's one of those. Journaling's one of those. The first couple of times you do it, there's going to be this roadblock of like, I feel dumb doing this. Like, I feel like that's a common conversation that I have with clients, is like, I kind of feel dumb doing this. And it's like, it's just a different thing. It's like stepping out of your comfort zone. There is going to be this, like, you're not great at it yet. You're going to get better at it. And then it's going to be more effective the better you get at it. There's no limit to what you can try, but what is most important is you make it part of your daily structure. So it has to be daily. It has to be very consistent. It has to be something that you are doing even the days that you don't want to do it, because it's going to help you out in the long run. But the days that we don't want to do it, if we tell ourselves, we'll just do it tomorrow, it's the same like cycle that we get with exercise and nutrition. Oh, the diet starts tomorrow. We're going to start working out tomorrow. As it puts it off another day. And then that day comes, and then we find another reason why not to do it, instead of just like, hey, we got the time to do it, take action and do the darn thing. Yeah. We're creatures of habit, and in order for us to, see the long-term effect, we must practice and repeat.
Yeah.
We did this.
Yeah, I think what you were saying, like on the days you don't want to do it, that's why we start small. And I always like tell my clients, they did a study where they told people, hey, half of the group, we're going to want you to floss 1 tooth a day. The other half, they said, we want you to floss your whole mouth every single day. And then they did this study for, however long. They came back at the end. The group that was told to floss 1 tooth was super consistent, followed through, did that every day, executed. The group that was told they had to floss their entire mouth every day was not. And it's just because it's so much. So like, it's just like, do it for a minute, brain dump for a minute, meditate for 1 minute. You know what I mean? And it's just like, we have to make the chunks very, very small, so that even on those hard days, you're like, okay, I can do this for 1 minute, and that's what kind of builds the reps and gets that habit going. And then once you have the habit going, you'll find that some days you want to do it for longer, but it's not as big of a hurdle to get over, because you're not saying, I need to journal for 15 minutes. It's like, no, I'm just going to sit down for 1 minute.
Yep. Yeah. And it just becomes it becomes part of a subconscious, is essentially like what I like to tell clients is like, do it consciously for long enough that it becomes subconscious, because like that's when these habits become lifestyle. And that's it just becomes this like, hey, we're doing this, and this is just part of what we do, because now like your brain's clicking, because it takes time for you to, like, when we think of bad habits, like we're dealing with people that have created bad habits over 20 plus years, 15, 20 years. So asking them to completely turn around all those habits overnight is just not going to happen. That's where you're just going to have failure. People are going to fail with it. So like, that's why these like small incremental, like you said, 1 minute a day, that's all it takes. You got however many, I'm not going to do the math, however many minutes a day that we fill with just crap, old habits, stuff. And it's like, well, let's start to kind of slowly piece away at that, because it's going to take time to just reset the old habits and create new ones.
Yeah.
So, and it also, when we talk about stress, if we just gave you, like I said, 0 to 100 and gave you everything, and you just had to do all these things, 15 minutes of journaling, 3 times a week exercise, prep all your food, hit these calorie goals, then your stress level is just going to climb. And then two months from now, you're going to quit the program. So you gotta like, it's all about long-term change that's going to create sustainability for you.
Yes.
So yeah, that's what I got for you. Anything you want to add to it?
No. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any questions, please reach out. Let us know. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week for the next podcast.
Peace out.